The real story of coffee drinks. Drip coffee. Before espresso machines, before modern cafes, and long before latte.
Art-filled social media feeds, there was one method that quietly defined the foundation of coffee culture. That method is
drip coffee. Drip coffee is created by slowly pouring hot water over ground coffee beans and allowing gravity to filter the
brewed liquid through a paper or metal filter. The result is a cup that feels clean, transparent, and remarkably expressive.
Depending on the origin of the beans, the flavor can reveal bright, fruit-like acidity, delicate floral aromas, or warm, nut.
Fruity sweetness. But something fascinating happens the moment hot water touches the coffee grounds. The surface of the coffee begins to swell
and expand. Tiny bubbles rise and the grounds bloom. This process is known as blooming, and it happens because carbon dioxide, trapped inside freshly roasted coffee, escapes when it meets hot water. Professional brewers often allow the coffee to bloom for about 30 seconds. That short half-minute plays a surprisingly powerful role in determining the final flavor. 2 cups brewed with the same beans can taste dramatically different depending on whether the bloom stage was respected or ignored. Drip coffee also carries a surprising twist.
Most people assume espresso contains more caffeine because it tastes stronger. In reality, drip coffee often delivers more caffeine per cup. The reason lies in extraction time. Espresso extracts quickly in roughly 30 seconds under set
pressure, while drip coffee continues extracting compounds for more than 3 minutes. The longer contact time allows more caffeine to
dissolve into the water. In Korea, hand-drip coffee was once regarded as a symbol of premium craftsmanship. However, the truth is
much simpler. Drip coffee is not a luxury technique. It is actually the oldest and most widely practiced brewing method in the world.
What many once believed to be specialty coffee was simply the original foundation of coffee brewing. Espresso.
If drip coffee represents the origins of coffee, espresso represents the revolution that transformed coffee into the know today. Espresso is produced by forcing hot water through finely ground coffee using extremely high pressure, roughly 9 times atmospheric pressure. This intense extraction compresses the flavor of coffee into a small but powerful liquid.
The audio features a narrator with a smooth mid-pitch and clear tone, speaking in a steady cadence.
A traditional single shot of espresso is incredibly concentrated. It is designed to be consumed quickly, and its volume is
only about 30 milliliters. The volume is small, but the concentration is extraordinary. The first sip delivers bold bitterness and roasted intensity. Then, after swallowing, a thick and lingering aftertaste settles on the palate.
On top of the espresso sits a golden foam layer known as crema. Crema forms when emulsified oils and carbon dioxide combine during high-pressure extraction. A thick, stable crema is often a sign that the espresso was extracted properly. However, producing excellent
espresso is not simply pressing a button on a machine. 4 factors control the final result: the grind size of the coffee, the temperature
of the water, the pressure during extraction, and the skill of the barista. Even tiny adjustments in any of these variables
can completely transform the taste of the shot. That is why professional baristas spend years mastering espresso extraction. It is
not merely a drink, it is a craft. Interestingly, in Italy, the birthplace of espresso, it is common to add sugar directly into
the shot. Italians often stir sugar into their espresso before drinking. Yet in some other countries, people view adding sugar
to espresso is unsophisticated. The irony is that the original culture never saw it that way. Americano, among all
coffee drinks sold in modern cafes, one stands quietly at the top of the sales chart: Americano. Americano is
created by adding hot water to espresso, transforming the concentrated shot into a larger and smoother cup of coffee. The preparation
method is simple, yet its popularity is enormous. In Korea especially, Americano consistently ranks as the
#1 selling drink across all age groups and genders. This popularity has created an interesting economic effect.
Many NY cafes feel comfortable raising the price of specialty drinks, but they hesitate to increase the price of Americano. The moment its price rises,
customers may simply walk to the cafe next door. But the name Americano carries an unexpected historical story. In the Second World War, American soldiers stationed in Italy encountered espresso for the first time. Accustomed to the lighter taste of drip coffee,
Back home, they found espresso extremely strong and bitter. To make it easier to drink, they began diluting it with hot water.
Italian baristas observed this practice with amusement and began calling the drink Americano, meaning the American-style coffee. The
story becomes even more ironic when we look at the present day. In the United States, many people still prefer drip coffee rather than
Americano. Meanwhile, in Korea, Americano has become the most widely consumed coffee in cafes. Italian
baristas, however, still have mixed feelings about it. Some jokingly say they would set the price of Americano at €99 just to
discourage customers from ordering it. For Italians, adding water to espresso sometimes feels like diluting the soul of coffee itself.
Latte. Now imagine taking the bold intensity of espresso and wrapping it in warmth and softness. That is the
essence of a latte. The full name is caffè latte, which in Italian literally means coffee and milk. A latte is
by combining espresso with a generous amount of steamed milk, usually in a ratio between 1 part espresso and 3 to 4 parts milk.
The milk softens the sharp bitterness of espresso and transforms it into a smooth, creamy beverage with a comforting texture.
But latte culture goes beyond flavor. The silky microfoam produced by properly steamed milk allows baristas to create delicate
patterns on the surface of the drink. This practice is known as latte art. Latte art emerged in the 1980s in Seattle,
where baristas began experimenting with pouring techniques that produced shapes such as hearts and leaves on the crema surface. Within a few
decades, this artistic expression spread across the entire world. Surprisingly, the latte art designs that now feel completely normal
in cafes are only about 40 years old. There is another subtle difference between latte and Americano that many people
never notice. Milk slows down the absorption of caffeine in the human body. When drinking Americano, caffeine enters the bloodstream
quickly, creating a rapid spike in alertness. With latte, the presence of milk delays this process, allowing the stimulating
effect to appear more gradually, but last longer. For people who are sensitive to caffeine, this can make latte a more comfortable option. However, first-time drinkers sometimes experience a small surprise. Traditional cafe latte contains no sugar by default.
Those expecting the sweetness of convenience store milk coffee may prefer a vanilla latte with added syrup. Cappuccino.
Cappuccino may appear similar to latte at first glance, but the experience is entirely different. A cappuccino is composed of 3 equal
layers: 1/3 espresso, 1/3 steamed milk, 1/3 milk foam. Compared with latte, cappuccino contains less
liquid milk and significantly more foam. The thick foam layer creates a unique drinking experience. The first spoonful of foam feels soft, light, and slightly sweet. Beneath that airy surface waits the concentrated espresso. Because there is
less milk dilution, the coffee flavor becomes far more pronounced than in a latte. The name cappuccino carries a curious history.
It originates from the Capuchin monks of Italy. These monks traditionally shaved the center of their heads while leaving a ring of hair
around the edges. People believed that the appearance resembled the circular pattern formed when milk foam rests on top of espresso. In Italy, cappuccino is typically consumed only in the morning. Many Italians believe that milk interferes with digestion later in the day.
When tourists order cappuccino in the afternoon, Italian baristas sometimes react with silent amusement.
Also played an important role in the evolution of latte. When cappuccino culture traveled to the United States, Americans gradually increased the amount of milk and reduced the foam. Over time, this adaptation evolved into the modern latte we recognize.
Today, the evolution of modern coffee, flat white. Somewhere between the softness of a latte and the intensity of espresso lies a
drink that many coffee professionals quietly admire, flat white. This coffee was born in Australia and New Zealand during the 1980s.
And even today, the two countries still argue passionately about who invented it first. Both claim ownership, and the debate has continued. That for decades without a clear conclusion. Flat white looks similar to a latte at first glance, but the balance is very different.
A latte uses a generous amount of milk to soften the coffee flavor. Flat white does the opposite. It reduces the amount of milk so that the character
of espresso remains clearly present. One way to understand the difference is simple. A latte often tastes like milk, gently
flavored with coffee. Flat white tastes like coffee, enriched with the aroma of milk. The drink uses finely textured steamed milk, known as micro
foam, but in a thinner layer. This allows the bitterness, sweetness, and acidity of espresso to remain more visible on the palate. For people who enjoy the elegance of milk but do not want to lose the personality of the coffee itself, flat white often becomes the perfect
middle ground. For many years, the drink remained largely unknown outside Australia and New Zealand. That changed dramatically in
2015 when Starbucks introduced flat white to its global menu. Within a short time, the drink spread across cafes the world
wide. Today it stands as a quiet favorite among serious coffee drinkers who want balance rather than extremes. Macchiato.
Now imagine something even closer to the pure spirit of espresso culture. Macchiato. Macchiato is a small and
direct coffee drink that captures the intensity of espresso with only a gentle touch of milk foam. The name comes from the Italian word meaning
stained or marked. The idea is simple. A shot of espresso is lightly marked with a small amount of milk foam on top. The drink is
usually served in a small glass and consumed quickly. Because of this, it reflects the traditional rhythm of Italian espresso culture,
where coffee is often enjoyed standing at a bar in just a few moments. A classic macchiato contains around 30 milliliters of espresso with only a small spoon of milk foam. The foam softens the surface bitterness slightly, but the coffee remains bold, concentrated,
and expressive.
Is an important distinction that many people do not realize. The famous caramel macchiato served by large coffee chains is not the same drink at all. That beverage combines espresso, vanilla syrup, steamed milk, and caramel sauce into a sweet, layered drink. The traditional macchiato, in contrast, is minimalist. It focuses entirely on the espresso itself, with only the smallest hint of milk. Mocha. Some coffee drinks speak the language of purity. Others speak the language of comfort. Mocha belongs to the second
category. Mocha combines espresso with chocolate syrup and steamed milk, often finished with a layer of whipped cream. The
result is a drink where the sweetness of chocolate meets the bitterness of coffee. The first aroma you notice is chocolate, then the roasted depth of
espresso slowly follows behind it. Because of this balance, mocha often feels like it sits somewhere between a beverage and a dessert.
But the name Mocha carries a story that reaches far back into the history of global coffee trade. Mocha was originally the name of a
port city in Yemen. In the early centuries of coffee commerce, beans exported from this port were famous for their natural, chocolate-like aroma. Over time, the word mocha became associated with coffee that had chocolate characteristics. Eventually, the name expanded further
and began to describe coffee drinks mixed with chocolate. The story continues in the 17th century when Dutch traders secretly transported coffee
seedlings from Yemen to the Indonesian island of Java. There, they began cultivating coffee on a larger scale. This moment gave birth
to one of the first famous coffee blends in history, Mocha Java. This blend combined the bright acidity of Yemeni coffee with the
heavy, earthy body of Java beans. Even today, Mocha Java remains one of the most classic coffee blends sold around
the world. A single word on a cafe menu carries centuries of coffee exploration, trade, and global influence. Cold brew.
Most coffee is brewed with hot water, but what happens when the entire process slows down and the temperature drops? That question
leads us to cold brew. Cold brew is made by steeping ground coffee in cold water for an extended period, usually between 12 and less
24 hours. Without heat, many of the compounds responsible for bitterness and sharp acidity extract much more slowly. As a result, cold brew produces a drink that tastes naturally smooth and subtly sweet, even without sugar.
It also tends to have lower acidity, which makes it easier for people whose stomach reacts poorly to traditional hot coffee. Cold brew has
another surprising advantage.
Stored in refrigeration for up to 2 weeks while maintaining stable flavor. This quality made it extremely attractive for commercial coffee
businesses. Around 2015, cold brew experienced explosive growth in the United States before spreading rapidly across the global cafe market. But there is a common misconception. Many people believe cold brew contains less caffeine because it is brewed with cold
water. In reality, the long steeping time allows caffeine to dissolve thoroughly. In many cases, cold brew that
contains more caffeine than Americano. The slow process quietly builds a powerful result. Nitro cold brew. If cold brew represents patience, Nitro cold brew represents innovation. Nitro cold brew is created by infusing cold brew coffee with the nitrogen gas and dispensing it through a pressurized tap system similar to draft beer. Nitrogen bubbles are significantly smaller than
carbon dioxide bubbles. This difference creates a texture that feels incredibly smooth and creamy. The most surprising part is that no
dairy is required. Even without milk, Nitro cold brew produces a rich mouthfeel that almost resembles a creamy beverage.
Another interesting phenomenon occurs when nitrogen interacts with the coffee. The drink often tastes sweeter. No additional sugar
is added. Instead, the nitrogen subtly changes how the human tongue perceives flavor, allowing the natural sweetness of the coffee to become
more noticeable. When Starbucks introduced Nitro cold brew in 2016, the drink quickly captured attention and spread through specialty coffee shops around the world. It became a perfect example of how technology can reshape even the most traditional beverage.
Not every coffee drink is meant to be serious. Some are simply meant to be fun.
From coffee, ice, milk, and sugar, the ingredients are mixed together into a thick, foamy beverage that feels closer to a frozen dessert.
Than a traditional cup of coffee. Its origin story is one of the most accidental in coffee history. In 1957, during an
exhibition in Thessaloniki, Greece, a Nestlé employee named Dimitris Vakondios wanted to drink coffee but could not find hot water. Instead, he mixed instant coffee with cold water and shook it vigorously. The result was unexpected. The mixture created a thick foam and produced a refreshing iced coffee drink. This simple accident eventually became the most popular summer coffee beverage in
Greece. Even today, frappe remains deeply associated with Greek cafe culture. Large coffee chains later developed similar drinks.
The most famous being the Frappuccino. The name itself combines the words frappe and cappuccino. Seasonal versions of these drinks.
Drinks often attract long lines in cafes every summer, even though everyone knows they contain more calories than traditional coffee. Sometimes,
pleasure matters more than purity. Turkish coffee. Long before espresso machines and modern cafes exist, there was another brewing
tradition that shaped the early culture of coffee. Turkish coffee. This method uses extremely finely ground coffee placed into
a peasant, a small pot called a sezv, combined with water and heated slowly until it begins to foam.
Is not filtered. The grounds remain inside the cup and eventually settle at the bottom. From this unusual characteristic emerged
a unique cultural tradition. After finishing the drink, people often turn the cup upside down and allow the remaining grounds to dry.
The patterns formed by the dried coffee are then interpreted as symbols used for fortune telling. In this way,
a ritual. The origins of Turkish coffee date back to the 16th century during the Ottoman Empire, making it several centuries older than
espresso. Some historians even suggest that the development of espresso machines was partly inspired by attempts to create a faster version
of this brewing method. The flavor of Turkish coffee is extremely intense, often stronger than espresso. Without sugar,
the bitterness can linger for a long time, and if you drink the final sip, you may even feel the texture of the coffee grounds themselves. In
2013, Turkish coffee was officially recognized as a UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage of Humanity. Not just the beverage,
but the entire tradition of preparing and sharing it was considered a cultural treasure. Instant mixed coffee. Finally, there is
one coffee product that almost everyone in Korea recognizes instantly: mixed coffee. Mixed coffee combines instant coffee,
sugar, and powdered creamer into a single packet. All you need to do is add hot water. It appears in offices,
construction sites, hiking trails, and break rooms across the country. What makes it remarkable is that this product was first invented in Korea, a country that does not grow coffee beans. In 1976, Dongsa Foods introduced a packet that combined coffee
and sugar and creamer into one convenient serving. The original goal was practical. Outdoor enthusiasts, such as hikers
and fishermen, needed a simple way to enjoy coffee wherever hot water was available. but the reason for its explosive popularity was
Affected. Sugar. At the time, sugar was still relatively expensive. Each packet of mixed coffee contained a generous amount of sweetness,
which made the drink incredibly appealing. In a way, the coffee succeeded because of the sugar inside it. Over the years,
Mike's coffee traveled beyond Korea. In many other countries, people see it less as a traditional coffee and more as a sweet dessert-like drink because of its creamy texture and balanced sweetness. Today, it remains one of the most recognizable coffee products associated with
Korean culture. And many tourists visiting Korea consider it a must-buy item to bring home.